Welcome to Medicine with the Metals. I'm Mark and this is Michelle. So, good morning. We have a great guest
So
today.
Monday for us today, which is kind of fun. We
Yeah,
usually do this on Wednesday.
yeah. So, we got some great things happening in the community. Let's just do a shout out to one of our sponsors, Mama Dose.
Mama Dose, all things microdosing and macrodosing. Mama's Functionals.
And then we got the Plant Medicine Path community, big community they're starting to build up over there for people that want to get their retreats on there, their events, their courses, education, information, building a community kind of right outside of Facebook with all those regulations.
Integration coaches. Mark and I got permanently banned from Facebook for being truth tellers, and that just inspired us to start our own community.
That's what happens in this world of truth, doesn't it? We got a great guest today. We always talk about this PTSD. We talk about this with first responders, veterans. I think they all fit in that same category. So let's introduce our guest this morning. His name's Paul Walton.
Where do I start? I work for Bernalillo County Fire Department here in Albuquerque, New Mexico area. About just almost 17 and a half years now that I've been with the department. And yeah, so we've done a few things here recently. We're the only department in New Mexico that allows for off-duty medical cannabis right now. We got that. The union worked with the county and negotiated, and we had one of our commissioners get on board, and there were several
That's a big
unanimous.
deal.
Yeah, it is actually. Several unanimous votes to enact it, and then it actually changed the county policy as well. So we did that, and then things kind of like teetered off a little bit. It was a long process, and we can talk about it more if you want or anything like that down the road. But so now we're trying to get that for other departments, and if we can change some language eventually in the medical bill to allow for other first responders and people to access cannabis. So that's what we've been kind of working on here recently.
Can I ask you a
Yeah,
question
so,
real quick about that?
yeah, absolutely.
Is the
Yeah.
county the first in the United States?
No, it's not actually. There's been several big departments, in fact, like New York, Pittsburgh, Prince Williams. There's been a few states now, I think 3 or 4 states that have enacted first responder medical workers protection for medical cannabis. So it's happening, and there's several others outliers here and there. Actually, the whole city of Phoenix changed their drug policy as well to not randomly test for THC. And basically, the rules, same thing for the county. You got to look at what the feds test for and what they require. So FAA, a lot of people, if you have a weapon, carry a weapon, and then CDL. So anything like DOT, rail yards, like all that kind of stuff that the feds have to test for, but the states don't actually require that at a state level. So yeah,
We're here to talk about psychedelics, but
I know.
cannabis is our cannabis is sort of our big sister, right? I mean, we are where cannabis was 15 years ago, maybe less, maybe 10 years ago. That's why I think it's important to talk about it.
If you look at things like cannabis, obviously there's been a lot of testing on it. There's been a lot of results to showing, and we've seen that in our firefighters so far. It got enacted into our contract in February of this year. So we've seen guys talk less anxiety, better coping skills, sleeping better is a big one, less drinking or quit drinking alcohol is another big one, better family interactions and better family time. So we've had a few guys say that it, saved their life. And I mean, honestly, it was probably helped me in that regard as well. So yeah.
Cannabis is amazing for symptoms. We love
Yeah.
cannabis. Cannabis is amazing for symptoms. Where psychedelics differ is that they come in and deal with the root cause.
Yeah, right. I mean, right. There's a lot of different, each plant has its unique, I mean, Ibogaine's different than psilocybin, right? LSD is different than psilocybin, right? Peyote, ayahuasca, they all have their sort of like unique sort of things that they do for
Absolutely.
different, medical things. So yeah.
Yeah. So you've been a firefighter for what, 17 years? So what was your actual transition? What transitioned you to this way of life or this understanding?
You mean what we're trying to do right now, or
Yeah,
becoming a
like
firefighter in
what
general?
what what kind of brought you to, like, I could tell you what brought me to my moment was 7 years ago. I was just stuck and ayahuasca kept
Yeah.
coming up, boom, boom, boom. What was your turning moment?
Well, I had some experience in the past with psychedelics and life-changing experience in the past. Um, and then I got into the department and, stopped everything like that, obviously. And as the years go by, you don't realize how much trauma you're holding in and how much it's affecting you, right? Until it builds. It's kind of like the whole thing of like, you don't go get treatment for something that's an addiction until like the bottom falls out practically. And that's kind of the thing that happened. And I had surgery for a work related injury, and I got a card right before that. And I was going to be off for a few weeks, a couple months, probably at least. It was a hernia surgery. And so I took the opiates that they gave me for the first 3 days, and it was awful. I mean, the side effects, and I've never been really comfortable with a lot of pharmaceuticals. They just react to me maybe a little bit differently, or maybe I'm more sensitive to them. So then I started using the cannabis, and not only did it help for my pain, but then it really brought me back to who I was before I got into the department and all that trauma. So it started that healing process. And once that healing process started, it really changed a lot of things for me. So it put me on this path with some other guys and our union to get cannabis off duty for us. And then well, I guess it was the next year, I went up to Colorado and did a facilitated psilocybin up there. And it had been a long time since I'd done psychedelics. So it was a bit scary at first, but it was interesting because once I got into the experience, I felt at home. It was kind of like, oh, you're comfortable and familiar here. Yeah. So that's perpetuated that healing process even more, as you know.
How long
So
ago was
that's
that?
what a couple years ago, and I did one again last year as well. I almost feel like you have to kind of, I mean, those wounds just never totally heal. They start to heal. Those gaps close up a little bit, or I had just heard someone talk yesterday on a film, how basically they got stitches in that wound. It's not fully healed, and the stitches are big and wide right now, but they're gonna, get smaller and smaller. And it takes time and it takes work. None of this is a magic cure. I think people have to understand that, and I think there's misinformation out there. There's work to do. There's work coming into it, right? There's work during the journey. Let the magic, right, do the work for you. Just be accepting of it, and it will show you where to go.
Well,
Um,
there's no magic pill for anything. But I can tell you
yeah,
one thing when it comes to psychedelics, they work. Okay.
yeah,
S-
yeah.
They work so well. That's why they're restricted because, they classify them as a drug, but, you know, the drugs they give us every day are drugs in the Western world. These are drugs that they're not, there's no way, shape, or form these are addictive. And we just spoke about ibogaine or iboga.
Yeah.
You know, that's a miracle pill. That's a miracle medicine. And why we're not
But you have
utilizing
to
that?
do the work too. It's
Yeah,
not just
so much
taking that
more.
Well,
pill.
These are just tools that give you, the experience is
right.
just a
And
tool.
it's a tool. It's like a rocket tool, right? It speeds everything up. But you have to be able to want to do that work and capture what you learned and what you experienced and integrate it into your life. So that integration part is super important, right? It's everybody's been talking about the analogy of 20 years of therapy in one session, right? And I heard someone speak yesterday, and it was touching as a vet, and she talked about, sorry,
That's okay.
We cry all the time.
um but she talked about trying to kill herself, and having these thoughts, and you know hundreds of prescription medications that did nothing, right? 1,000 hours of talk therapy that didn't fix her, didn't do much. But then one psychedelic experience, changed everything and led her on. Again, she said the same thing. It's work. I'm not fully healed, but it led me on that healing pathway and helped, shrink those wounds a bit. So, yeah.
I love how you put it, how you described it as a wound that gets stitches, 'cause I think you're right, things don't fully heal. I used to think that they did, actually. But when I find myself getting triggered by some things, I realize that wound is not healed all the way. That voice has not been heard yet. So I think that we can heal, but then with those stitches, they can burst wide open again.
Yeah, and just in my journey over the last, honestly, 3 years, it's dramatic change from, honestly, I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish my career out for the next 5 years, and because it was that bad, I wanted to leave, and it was just, yeah, I was very depressed, unhappy, a lot of different bad thoughts, right? Um, but I feel like in my healing journey, um, kind of all this has come around full circle now, and I know how much this helps everybody, and how I want to be pushing forward for other people and other first responders to get this medication and help heal those wounds that they have as well.
So how do your coworkers and others respond to this?
Well, we're, I mean, the cannabis part was amazing, and people I talk to are very excited about the psilocybin. But we have a couple years before it happens, right? So, but I'm trying to work with the Department of Health, at least in the capacity of getting a first responder voice in there that has experience with this and things like that, to have some rules and regulations in there that will apply to first responders, and be able to get them help and affordable help. And it's a unique breed. A normal therapist does not understand the work shifts and the trauma and all the different things that occur. So you need someone that really is specialized in dealing with first responders and cracking that hard shell open and allowing them to have some feeling and some healing. Yeah.
Well, it's a different kind of trauma, first responders, that's all along the same lines, because we're all in our adulthood holding on to trauma, but now you have a career that is also causing trauma.
Yeah,
It's a different, that's why
exactly.
Mark and I talk about it differently from first responders to vets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, vets are very well organized. There's a lot of information, in supporting vets. I think first responders just, there's not that huge push as much as there should be. There's a lot of moral injury. There's a lot of
Mm.
PTSD out there, a lot of anxiety and other issues, right? And then what happens is when that person has that and that chaos in their head and they don't know what to do with it, they don't know how to fix anything, they don't know how to calm down, that translates into family. And then that also translates into the community. So I'm a really strong advocate that if we have plant medicine, and it's so much safer than these prescription meds and alcohol, like you talked about, right? And in a good regulated environment that's safe, and everything like that. But if we have people that are healthier first responders, more compassion, more empathy, better decision making, as far as when in a crisis. And that's the hard part. Like first responders they're like they want to carry the workload of everything and not admit that anything is wrong, right? And it doesn't matter how traumatic that event is. We're professional. We don't show any emotion. And then you get back from that, and what do you do with that? You just push it down, right? You don't talk about it. So I want to change that.
Yeah, the amount of what you see, some of these, you must visualize death once a week, maybe, you know, in some of these instances. So that's pretty traumatizing. So firefighters for plant medicine, really cool. I like it. What's your vision?
Well, the vision, really, we want to just be a resource. We want to start advocating for, rules and regulations to change to allow for cannabis and different psychedelics, and help with that process with everybody else that's doing these things. Bring awareness to the struggles, the difficulties, all the nuances surrounding first responders. And first responders, we call ourselves firefighters for plant medicine. That's because we're firefighters. We started this, but it's all about first responders, and that's from dispatch to first responders and EMS who first show up on scene, along with
Yep.
local police, to honestly to the ER. And I mean, these people are not getting any help, to be honest with you, right? Or talk therapy just really doesn't do a whole lot for a lot of these people. It might be a little bit. So we want to do some other things. We want to have some other engagements. We want to create some groups and do some art therapy, do some outdoor sort of therapy stuff, whether it's mountain biking or pickleball, right? And then we want our people within our board and maybe some small membership to be trained in peer support and like a sitter, like go through the Zendo project or something like that. And then be peer support sitters for someone doing a journey or something like that. So you have someone there that understands. They're doing it with vets right now. I don't think
Mhm.
that first responders are really into that yet. So we're just trying to, yeah, be out there and do this sort of work. And then eventually what we'd like to do is start getting some funds set aside that when our psilocybin bill gets passed, that we'll have some funding to help assist firefighters in going and getting this therapy. Who knows? We don't know what the regulations or rules are going to be, but if you look at Oregon, Colorado, different things like that, whether people are doing them in Colorado at, Airbnbs in a group setting or different things like that, it's not cheap. It's a few $1,000s. And that could be a month's pay for a first responder. And that's just not feasible,
Or
and they
you
deserve
can get
better.
those costs down for sure. So
Are you looking to take this, nationwide, or is it already? Are you getting other
Well,
states involved?
so here's the honest truth about everything is that this came into a brainstorm about, I don't even know if it's been 3 months, to be honest. I feel like it's been more about a couple months ago or so. And we started talking together with a couple other guys, and we just, the union did a lot of work for us in helping with the county get this passed. But they have restraints that they have to stay and they have to do their own thing, and we just felt like, okay, well, how do we do this a little bit better and have a little bit more voice? So we're like, well, let's do this. Let's just start a group and let's see what happens. And let's just try and educate people, try and educate other departments and show them what we've experienced, the good things. Um, and just kind of go about that and see what happens. And it just it just snowballed. I mean, really snowballed super fast. I made a lot of good connections in the psychedelic community here in New Mexico. Dr. Larry Lehman, Amy Wong Hope, just a bunch of different people that are really been pushing this bill through for a few years and finally got it passed. So the reception has been incredible, and it grew so fast. We're trying to catch up. It's like how do you say it, basically building the plane as it's taking off or something like that.
The thought that comes to mind is you going and speaking at psychedelic conferences, really bringing this to the light.
Yeah, I was just at one yesterday, and there's vets, and there was a police officer from out east. And so there's just not a representation for
Mhm.
firefighters, really. And one of the things I think is a stigma that kind of all society has is that these guys can do this job. They signed up for this, like we're not supposed to be human. We're not supposed to have emotions, right? Sort of thing. And we get that stigma and put it on ourselves as well, right? We're our own worst enemies, to be honest with you. It's really true. We're very, very good at pushing things down. I just talked to the Department of Health the other day, and I told them that if you ask a firefighter on any given day how they are, it could be the worst day that they're having, and they're going to tell you they're fine. Right. So how do you reach and break open those people? And that's another thing that we want to work with Department of Health and other people who want to do some therapy with first responders and like figure out a program. So I've actually talked to recently PATA. Have you heard of them?
I have not.
Psychedelic-assisted therapy association,
Okay.
and they're working on a first responder program. And so I've been talking with them, and so the owner Jason has asked me to come on board to help with that project. And I think I'm speaking in a panel with one of their conferences that is coming up at the beginning of October. So it's starting to happen. It's still hard, to be honest with you. There was a vet yesterday, Chris, that did a lot of testimony for psilocybin, the legislature, who helped to get the bill passed through. And he spoke yesterday as well. And I told him afterwards, I was like, man, that's really hard when to tell your story and your weakness, right? And your vulnerability. And it's difficult because there's times when I tell my story and I'm okay. And then there's other times it's just like everything just starts going, you know? So
You know what that is. You know what that is because that's that's the unhealed trauma still. When you can do that without crying, because I used to do that everything, you know, that trauma comes up and then you start crying. Once you start healing that, those tears get less and less. I love tears anyways, but that's what truly happens.
yeah, and I understand. I can tell you that it's been a huge difference over the last few years, right? It's steadily getting better and better and better. I came to that breaking point, a few years ago, and yeah, so it was very traumatic. But when you have, I didn't have the best childhood growing up and stuff like that. So then you're putting that into it. But I actually did a lot of healing prior to getting into the department. I had experiences with psychedelics before, so I had kind of my own healing experience before that. But again, those things never heal either, right? So then you're just packing trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. Um, so it
Because I
takes
would say
time, I think.
99% of your firefighters or your employees, I'd say almost 100%, their trauma is way before they became a firefighter or an EMT, or their trauma happened way back before that because their trauma
Oh,
brought them to that career. So it's kind of
right, to
how it
help
works.
people, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
I think that there's a lot of us that have trauma, right? And we're
of
just never
course,
taught
all of
how to
us.
deal with it and how to, yeah, exactly. How to cope with it, and so I
You were talking about the physicians also who are on the front line. We had a ER doctor from Colorado come on about a year ago, and she was so traumatized during COVID that she went and did ayahuasca for her own healing, and then subsequently gave up her license because she just
Mhm.
couldn't deal with all the nonsense that went with it, and has
Yeah.
now opened a clinic in Denver for
Oh,
ketamine
okay.
and psilocybin.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard some good things about you know, Colorado and their bills. It's definitely a little more open. Like Oregon's struggling right now. They've had a lot of facilities close. I think the regulations.
Well, it's so expensive. I mean, who
Yeah,
you don't need to pay 2 or $3,000 to go have a psilocybin session. That's
yeah,
insane.
exactly.
And
Yeah, yeah,
the underground is where it's at right now. I mean, and the underground's going to teach everybody else, the ethical underground. You got to really be you gotta you gotta have some common sense when you're in this space too, If somebody's calling themselves a shaman, I would run away really quickly, I mean,
yeah,
because there's no American shamans. I've been doing this long enough that not even the indigenous call themselves a shaman. You have to be, I mean, that's a Western world word. So, there's a lot of things we have to learn and a lot of things were pushed under back in the 60s because they know this works, okay? There's no, well, how, we've been healing with plants for millions, thousands and thousands of years. Why'd we
yeah.
put a niche to it in the last 40? So, it's catching up. The internet's here. People can explore and they can make their own decisions. And just, it's going to take people like yourself, the voice, to keep and continue to do this. And look at in the last 3 months, the connections that you've made. It's pretty amazing, to be honest with you.
It is. It's almost overwhelming and actually kind of tiring, to be honest. Just so many things that get invited to, different psychedelic group gatherings and different things like that. So there's a lot of momentum right now. So I kind of have to ride that wave no matter what, to kind of get that word out there a little bit better. And one of the things I've been talking lately about with some therapists and looking at different ways to reach first responders. I think that they're right. There's a lot of control there, right? Um, Not sure about trusting and letting go of that control, letting open of feelings. because there's that stigma of if you do, you're going to look weak, not only to yourself, but everyone around you and your coworkers, that sort of thing. So we have to find ways to get past that. I think that one of the things that I think would really help is if someone is looking at doing a psychedelic or psilocybin assisted therapy, I think that a microdosing approach would be a really good way to interact with that and get them opened and loosened up a little bit, and then work your way into that macro dose. It also allows for a trust, right, between that person. I can tell you that I've had a handful of different therapists in the last few years, and for me, uh, I don't know how many sessions it takes to fully trust and be open with that therapist. To be honest, it takes a little time. It takes work for me. Now I'm better, but before, yeah, it took. I mean, the first therapist I had, it probably took a year before I really told her some stuff.
Well, when
So
you first started talking, I was thinking microdosing for sure for first responders. The going into a journey is important, but maintenance of that day to day microdosing is an incredible tool.
yeah, and I think I'm hoping, and I brought this up during the Department of Health, and I think that microdosing could easily be a prescription medication, right? Um, that can be done. It's non-psychoactive levels, right? And it's a lot better than taking any anxiety meds and, different, all that kind of stuff that has all those different side effects. This is much better. And it's been shown, right? We've just seen where, reducing life in, mice and different things like regenerating cells. We know the neuroplasticity and all that kind of stuff. So just even small doses, they've shown that can really do a lot of good for your body.
Yeah,
Um,
because
and
you
so,
start
yeah,
building a relationship with that medicine. You start removing that stigma after a while and saying, this isn't what I'm not jumping off a building or this isn't making me crazy. It's then you start seeing that clarity and almost all those people will explore deeper with psilocybin, especially.
Well, the medicine calls them to go deeper for sure when they've been microdosing. It's just inevitable. And then another beautiful thing that happens is people start letting go of things that no longer serve them. Alcohol, cigarettes, those are my 2 big ones that come to mind, but
yeah.
relationships that aren't successful, a job that isn't working out for them. I mean, you start to understand what real love for yourself is, and that is how we start letting go of these things that don't serve us anymore.
Yeah, you yourself go on that healing journey, right? And you understand that it's like I'm actually important and I should take care of myself a little bit better and not let someone else dictate how I should feel.
So that there's a lot of I mean, all this growing data on psychedelics and cannabis, and they all fit in this whole class of plant medicines to me. So, like for
Yeah.
PTSD, for anxiety, for depressions, for traumas, I mean, the science is there. So, how do we bridge that gap? I mean, I think we're starting to do it, and you're starting to do it, but you know, I still want to go back to that question again. How do you get negative responses, especially when it comes to psychedelics? Or I can see cannabis, but psychedelics.
I really haven't gotten I haven't talked to everyone. This hasn't been a big thing yet for pushing through firefighters in the department or anything like that, right? Because they're still enacting the regulations and everything like that. But the people I do talk to are very open to it. And they're hearing a lot of information about it, right? Through news and articles and all kinds of stuff. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, was it last year? I think the FDA called it a breakthrough therapy. um, and then, so different things like that, people start hearing that and they're like, oh, okay, I'm curious. But I do think that, and I would like to understand this a little bit more, but way I'm hearing things from firefighters right now that are allowed to use cannabis off duty, I feel like that is actually softening them up a little bit in that regard itself. So I wonder honestly how this would affect more openness to do a macro dose. And skip over the micro. I don't know, but I think they're both important in their own place and everything like that. So
So are you looking to get legislature changed? Are you looking to go to Washington with this, or your
well, I mean, right now we're just kind of, as far as the psilocybin is, we're just trying to bring awareness, right, and advocate and have education. So really, it's kind of working with the Department of Health. Hopefully, get on one of their subcommittees and stuff like that. That'll the advisory board will work with the Department of Health on how the rules and regulations are going to go about. So our thing is that we just want to bring awareness to first responders, make sure that we have access to it, right? And possibly even set up some kind of, whether it is an equity fund for first responders to help with therapy, or possibly maybe it's even some kind of discount or reward system for facilitators that would possibly do it at a discount rate or something like that, and at least get some kind of funding to kind of help out with that. But making sure that first responders are in those rules and regs, um, to be able to, have access. What we're really trying to do with the psilocybin is just work with the Department of Health and try to get on subcommittees to the advisory board that works with them and getting the rules and regs set up to make sure that at least we have access to it. We're not denied any kind of treatment or anything like that. And then hopefully have some kind of special amendment or something like that that would help make it more affordable, whether the state kind of chips in a little bit or something like that, or give rewards or discounts to facilitators that would help at maybe a reduced rate possibly or something like that. Yeah.
and many would. Many would.
Just in the short time to see the benefits, though, the benefits these guys will get, which I just feel like the short time instead, because legislation, all that bullshit's going to take so long to do. In the short time, the benefits for these medicines are so important, and just stories like yourself and others to express, psychedelics are not for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not without risk. Cannabis isn't without risk, right? And I heard that a lot when we work on the cannabis stuff, and I'm sure I'll hear it more with the psilocybin stuff from outside the department. I've had nothing negative said about it at all. And I've had very rare instance where someone has said something negative to us about getting the cannabis passed. There's been a few, but not many. But at the same time, the same people that say that, most of them I know like drink. So I'm like, well, I don't get it. Like, you can't do that. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, look, how many you know better than me because you probably see it, but 500 people a day die from alcohol-related death. How many die from psilocybin? 0.
Yeah, same thing with cannabis, right?
Hmm.
Never been a recorded death. The
Never,
same thing with psychedelics, actually. When
never.
That's what I'm
you
saying.
look at psychedelics, right? The addiction to psychedelics is super low, way lower than cigarettes and alcohol. Yeah, and then the toxicity of it is the same, like compared to pharmaceuticals and alcohol and stuff like that. It's like untraceable, basically. It's
Kind of makes
ridiculous.
you wonder why all
Um,
this is illegal. I know.
Well, we know.
right.
We know, you know.
Yeah, and you can see that pharmaceuticals, are starting to come into the psychedelic realm, and there was just a big purchase the other day, what, $1.2 billion or something like that. And so you're looking at
What was that? I
pharmaceuticals.
missed
Like,
that.
okay, I believe that was a synthetic psilocybin, I believe it was, or something like that. Yeah, so it's interesting,
Well,
but
it's
with
interesting
like for the
because this works. That's why it intrigues me, especially. I want to go back to ibogaine and iboga again because it's like for the nature of work you guys do for the veterans. I mean, that's an amazing medicine.
yeah.
Psilocybin and alone is great, but iboga, that's going to be the one that
Well, that's a big push right now, and I can't remember his
Texas
first
just
name.
legalized iboga.
Well, I was just gonna say. So Hubbard is his last name, and I can't remember his first name. You see him talking everywhere. He's from Kentucky, heavy South accent, very charismatic kind of guy, but he was speaking yesterday, and he said, yeah, that $50 million allocated to help testing and push it through FDA. And I think they're getting some other states that might be helping fund some money a little bit with that as well. So everybody's pretty serious about it. It looks like Colorado's might be next with the Ibogaine. So, yeah.
Well, and I know Mark says ibogaines or iboga is the one, the big one, but it just depends on who you are and what
Yeah.
you're dealing with, and I'm not called to iboga. It's a beautiful medicine. I have seen with my own eyes the way that that works. That's more nervous system, addiction, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Each plant has its purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um, yeah, for me, right now using cannabis off duty has been a great thing for me. And then being able to do a couple of psilocybin journeys in Colorado have really, um, yeah, really
Now,
pushed
would you
my
do it by
healing.
yourself? A psilocybin ceremony?
No, no. Yeah, it was with a trained facilitator up in Colorado.
I said, would you? Would you do
Oh,
that?
would I? Yes, I would actually. I feel comfortable, and and again, I think the thing of it is, I think once you're experienced in doing something like that, we know it's set and setting. That has everything to do with that experience. But I think the other big thing is the intent, right? Coming into it with the right intent, that perpetuates that whole journey into what you need to discover about yourself and what you need to heal. And I don't think that it's one thing. I've heard this a couple of different times where, oh, I had this one, the journey was all this one thing. And, or they're trying to figure out how to make it all like one spiritual thing or one, yeah, healing journey or something like that. But I think it encompasses a lot of different things. I think there's a healing part of it. There's a fun part of it. Your body enjoys that, right? And that's also a very healing thing to be happy, right? And to have this overwhelming sense of loving everybody and connection, not only with yourself, but then everything in the universe around you. So I think all those sort of things that people talk about kind of encompass into one journey. Some may be more one thing than the other, um, but I think it's all healing, no matter what, even the hard parts, right? We know that for sure. Um,
Well,
it's
I
not all
definitely love
roses,
what you're
right?
doing. You know, what you're doing is so important. It's just really, you have to start with a foundation somewhere. And I think you started in a great place of New Mexico. So where do you see us going in the next 5 years? What is your really big hope for?
Well, in 5 years, I'll be retired for one, so that'll be very nice. I got about 2.5 to go. And my wife is actually works at the VA, and she works with palliative care. So she's really working with a lot of different people on end of life care, and things like that with this new bill. And she's getting ready to, she's starting the IPI facilitator program. And so she's a social worker at the VA. So our goal really, and mine is we want to get this going. We want to educate, kind of just keep propelling this education and awareness and advocacy and just keep it going and build it as big as we can. We just want to help first responders understand, get educated, and be able to do these healing experiences after this, or my about 2.5 years. So, and I'd like to really go really into it and really kind of take it in as a full-time sort of experience and job, and kind of reaching out and helping people across other states, right? Because we have Colorado and Oregon. New Mexico's third. It looks like Alaska might be coming up next. But there's a lot of other states, right? And so working with PATA, actually, they kind of want to make a blueprint to figure out first responder and treatment, and work together to kind of do that. And then that way we can kind of help other states and educate them as well as they're coming on board with psychedelics and psilocybin.
Well, that's how you do it. That's how Mark and I started 4 years, 5 years ago. Was we had a very clear mission. We put that mission out there, and we followed through every single day to bring awareness, because our mission was the same: information, education, and integration of plant medicines.
Yeah, and education is a big thing. And honestly, it's such a compassion thing right now. And starting up this group, it's so far it's kind of been all on us starting it up. We do have a small board now, and kind of working on bylaws and all this, trying to get our 501, all that. It takes a little bit of time to do that stuff, and we just kind of got going. So it's been really fast for us. But getting the website going, getting material out there, it's coming out of my pocket right now. But it's one of those things that when you're passionate about it, it doesn't, you don't even think about twice about it, really. You just do it.
I'm going to tell you
You
this.
know,
We started Mama Dose with $200 in a printer, and that is not an exaggeration at all. But we were on a mission. We were on a mission, and we're still on that
Yeah.
mission. It sounds like you're on a similar one.
Yeah. Yeah. I really want, I don't know. It's a calling. I think that after you have gone through a lot of trauma yourself, and then you've used plant medicine to heal yourself or to take you on that healing journey, right? You're just like, man, I got to help other people, right? That are in this, I know there's other people in my similar situation. There's a lot of guys like that. So it just becomes this thing of, yeah, all right, well, that's my thing. I have to help people. So we just started our website, kind of a semi-soft start. We just needed to get some information up super fast because we've just been growing so quickly. But it's firefightersforplantmedicine.org. And we're just really trying to educate, advocate, and bring awareness for firefighters for plant medicine, and so that we can get better access to off-duty use, whether it's cannabis or the psilocybin therapy as it comes up. Oh, we just pause again.
Well, you're doing wonderful work. We appreciate you. We would love to continue this conversation down the road.
Yeah,
Mark and I are here to support your mission 100%.
thank you.